Hello, welcome back to my studio. Today we're going to look at color mixing and in particular trying to tame that particularly difficult color, green. I received an interesting question this week from Penny, who writes, "No matter how much I try, I cannot seem to mix bright, impactful lights, especially green. I've tried lots of combinations of cad yellow, lemon yellow, ultramarine and cobalt and cerulean blue, but still very dark." Right, that is a typical problem, and I think one of the answers that could help you as well is, are you looking at the green color and seeing the green color for what it really is? Very often on a sunny day when we're looking at green, we are seeing something different, but we're thinking that it is a bright green, a bright tube green, and you get it off the shelf at the art shop and it looks completely wrong on the canvas. In truth, most of the bright greens that we're looking at in any scene is actually quite yellow. Sunlight is represented with yellow color and turns green grass into something far more yellow than we actually understand or perceive or think about. It's the case of painting what you think you see, but you're not actually painting what is there. So I'm going to show you a few examples of what I mean in photographs, because a lot of us are painting from photographs, and that is one of the biggest problems. And then I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of mixing the colors that practically take care of every green that I come across. And you may find an answer there as well. So let's have a look at a few photos to see what the problem really is. Very often we mistake the color green instead of actually seeing it for what it really is. So let's have a look at this picture over here. Actually looks like pretty green grass when you're out there at the scene, and when I took this photo I certainly got the impression of a really beautiful view with lots of green. But having a careful look at it, of course the sun is shining quite brightly. You can see the grass is picking up that light and it's looking more yellow, as it should. In the trees at the back here, the sunlight on the edge of the tree, you can see, is also a warm green, probably leaning towards a sort of orange. But that is the nature of the leaves, etc. Grass being quite thin, these leaves not letting the light shine quite through. Various factors like that, but nowhere in the scene are you looking at an artificially bright green. And the same sort of thing here. When I was visiting this particular spot, of course all I thought of was that it is a vibrant and the impression you get is a very green environment. But look what happens to the leaves as the sun is shining through them. They cannot help but become infused with all that yellow light and the grass. Now we've got to paint this and mix this color, and of course you're going to use a lot of yellow. Now you look in the shadows here, there you can see very cool green. Basically green with more blue, because shadow in sunlight is infused with blue. That's what you're going to get. Blue on the grass there, blue on the gravel on the side of the road, and the road itself has blue in it to get that color. And now we're getting into the danger zone, which are stock photos that look fantastic on stock sites and you want to paint them, but they've got all sorts of filters and things going on. But even in this case, this one isn't too bad. Look at the green grass getting the sunlight. Well, it's basically yellow, isn't it? And I will use yellow almost straight out the tube, maybe tinted with a little bit of white and a small touch of blue. What is this, oak tree, it's also green but quite dark, and in the sunlight it definitely leans towards the yellows. In the shadows we've got green that is leaning towards blue. So very simple to mix these colors when you understand that it's a yellow and a blue and some white, and you're going to get pretty much what you want. The biggest decision will be, do you use ultramarine blue or cerulean blue? And I'll show you a few of those. But when I'm working with a naturally dark tree with sort of darker leaves, I'll probably use ultramarine blue, maybe orange, or maybe just yellow, and that will get that sort of darker green. For grass, mostly it'll be lemon yellow and cerulean blue in the shadows. Maybe ultramarine, it depends, but very often in shadows I prefer to use cerulean because it's cooler than ultramarine. And this final photo, once again, that sort of stock photo issue where there's probably some sort of filter here to make the sky look nice and blue, and you get this extremely punchy green, but in fact it's leaning towards yellow once again. And we'll have a look at those basic color mixes now. Right, so let's have a look at mixing some of these elusive greens. And Penny mentioned that her biggest problem was light color. So light greens, sort of sunny greens, bright light, etc. So I'm going to start off with some lemon yellow, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue in here as well. And I'm going to, for the sake of convenience, put some orange down there. And of course we'll want some white. Now, as I said, the problem was mixing lights, and especially light, vibrant greens. Now, the biggest mistake, of course, then is using too much blue, because we're going to still end up with green that is just not looking like it's getting a lot of bright sunlight. It's not completely dark, of course. That could be more of the shadow version of this color here. But it's still not terrifically bright. Beginners may do is bring in white paint to lighten it up. And then we get a cold green, and also one that is receding far away, and that's sort of an atmospheric green in the distance. Lighten it up some more with white, and the problem just gets worse and worse. And pretty soon we're doing our best, but it's just not giving that warm, sunny green that we want. I think we'll need a bit more of that. And by the way, that is one of the problems. I'm not using a lot of paint here, but when you put too little paint on your palette, you're going to mix too little, and you're going to have too little color to mix a lot of the color you want. You're going to end up skimping, and it just leads to skinny paint when we want lots of juicy paint. All right, so bright, sunny green. And you know what? It's mostly yellow. There's a bit of blue in there. But for me, this is more about green in sunlight than any of this. If I bring in a little touch of white just to tint it and get to a highlight, I'm still think now that because I've just put in white, I've actually cooled this down. So I'll always add color back in. You add white, brings a bit of color back into it. It's still lighter than that, Now if I get more yellow, now I'm really turning up the heat. Now this is a beautiful sunny green. You'll say, oh, it's mostly yellow, but actually in that grassy field getting lots of sun, it's more like that. You could put in maybe a little yellow ochre and change it around a little. If it's too much, maybe just a fraction white, and so on. But here is sunny green. And you can't get much lighter than this. You wouldn't want to get much more lighter than this. Now, you want shadow greens, you're talking in here, mostly blue. Maybe you need some ultramarine and a little bit of yellow. And now, when it's next to that, sun, shadow. That's all it is. Any slight change from this is not going to change the principle that this is really what you're after. You don't get much lighter than this, but because the color is clean and strong and it's not been diluted and desaturated by too much white, it's got vibrancy, it's got warmth. And in your shadow colors as well, the last thing you want in shadows is white paint. That makes it weak, it makes it too opaque, so it defeats the object of having some sort of transparent shadow that you can look into, and you just end up with, and I'll demonstrate that. Let's do it. It actually pains me to do this. It just gives me the absolute heebie-jeebies, but anyway, look at that, it's awful. That is a color of a, I don't know, a mountain or a hill miles away, but a shady color, shady green under a tree, it's more like that. Now you get some dark trees and they won't get into yellows like this. That's where I will rather use a bit of ultramarine blue and some orange as a nice convenience color. So a little bit of, you just got to get the balance right here. Either it's more blue and just a touch of orange, or it's a lot of orange and just a touch of green. If you get things too even, you may end up with brown. And I know that there's all sorts of color mixing theories involved and using true primaries, etc. But honestly, you don't have to worry about that. So this is our dark tree, right? The shadow, sort of middle green and warm green. And if it was autumn, perhaps maybe it would be something like that, but probably the highlight will be getting a bit of yellow into it, and that would be a highlight over here. And that's it, and that is pretty light. You don't need any lighter than that. And right here is almost the colors that I will use for practically every painting that I do that involves green. So they were quite simple and light and bright and warm, nice and deep and cool, and even deeper, mysterious shadows, etc., of maybe an oak tree. Very little white paint required. You're working with color. That's the missing ingredient in many people's paintings. Well, Well, I hope you found that useful and it answered a question or two you may have had about the green color that you're mixing and why it's not looking as vibrant and as strong as you may want it. Now, before I go, I just want to tell you a little bit about the membership channel that is now active on my YouTube channel. You'll see the blue join button somewhere above here or below next to the subscribe button. Click on that join button and you'll find out about the categories of membership you can join and get a few extra perks as well and help me with this channel. And you'll get a lot of extra value as well as a member. So check that out and you may find something that is going to give you a little bit of extra. Alright, if you could like this video and share it, that would be fantastic. If you haven't subscribed yet, come on, now's the time. And we'll see you again in a week's time with the next video. Until then, cheers for now.